Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming and a second video, a follow-up video to the first video I made, the last one I made, about Brigandine Legend of Runersia. So in the first video I was just going through how the game looks, how it feels, what kind of game it is, and in this video, which won't be long either, I'm going to give you an idea of how the combat works. It's a turn-based game. There's the map. This time I'm playing as my earlier playthrough, which is as the Pink Empire, because I'm a bit further in with that and it's going to be more chance of combat or better combat. I'm not going to show you a lot of combat, I'm just going to show you what it looks like and what I kind of think of it overall. So there you go, you can see I've already kind of set up a kind of combat thing. So you have this screen where you press X and you can attack. You can only attack an adjacent city if you wish to. You can check either on the bottom of the screen where it says that city's name, so their story, they've got 3 knights and 6 monsters. You could also click on the whole overall to view what kind of monsters and what knights. It's also worth looking around at the other cities from the same country nearby, so you can see that Norwich further to the north has got no knights and the one to the east has got 2, so you kind of know what might happen afterwards, so you know. But I think it's common in this game, from how much I played it, that if you expose one of your cities by attacking, you may think you've got, like there you can see I've got an overwhelming amount of knights and monsters to attack them with, but as soon as you do that, they'll attack you somewhere else, so bear that in mind. I don't know if it always happens, but it happens to me. So anyway, how you attack is you just do this and then you send whoever you want to, well, attack basically, and it'll do that. You can do another one. Obviously don't leave your home city or your home base exposed, and then when you've got what you wanted to do, you can end the phase, and then the next phase will be the invasion, because we're invading them. If it was the other way around, they'd be invading us, obviously. Like I said, this game really does remind me of how it looks, and other than the actual combat, a game called Dynasty Tactics. But anyway, probably no one remembers that. So there you go, there's the combat screen. It tells you how much overall points we have against them, and it shows you how our different troops are paired up against them, and you can see we look like we're going to give them a good whooping. That could be kind of, like I said, a false economy, because like I said, often you find that when you attack them, unless you've already got a load of troops stacked in the base that you just left to attack, if that makes sense, they'll attack you. So there's quite a lot of little bits to this, but it's a kind of, which is what I've said, I'm not going to play a lot of the combat, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. If you've played turn-based, you'll kind of know. You have to deploy your troops as well. I don't know why you need to do that, but anyway. Obviously, if you've invaded, you want to deploy your troops. There might be some subtle thing I'm missing. So this is how the game looks, and I can tell you from when I started this, I'd already... I'll pause. Oh, she's not going to say much. Yeah, okay, whatever. I'd already looked at how this looked a few times in videos, and I decided that I didn't really like the look of it, but I thought because it's a turn-based game, with loads of information, it can be quite confusing. This bit is a bit irritating as well. But yeah, I thought as it's a turn-based game, maybe I'd like it anyway, but that was a mistake. So one of the things that it's showing you now, so I'll talk about this now, is different units prefer different things to fight on. You can see that from the screen. There's 6 different kind of types of, I think it's 6. Yeah, there's 6 different types of terrain that they like to fight on, and you can see it tells you which units like what and how different they fight on different terrain, and that sounds good in theory. I don't know, if you think of it like XCOM, so that's probably a game that most people have played, a turn-based game. If you had rangers that only liked fighting from the top of a building, or snipers would probably be a better example, who only liked fighting from the top of a building, which would be one thing, out of all your units, it might make sense if they got a bonus from firing from elevation. Actually, they do if you buff them up, but in this, because you've got loads of different units, probably if you played the game loads and loads, you'll get used to all the different monsters, but there were a lot of different ones, and they all like different terrain. It's just kind of, for me, it was too much. It was annoying. You can see the amount of things, how much difference it can make because they're on the wrong terrain, and I found that annoying. Even in XCOM, and I know XCOM like the back of my hand, if every unit had this amount of different terrains that they might like or not like, it would have been annoying, because an XCOM, it would be slightly easier because many of the missions are in cities. So basically it would really just be undercover or elevation. There's not much difference. And even if they're in the countryside or something, there's not that many different things. So here you've got a whole load of like different stuff. And I find it just annoying. So how this then plays is you do the same thing you'd normally do. You can move different troops to different areas, but the problem is that you can see how this works. So there's the enemy, and there is us. There's some trees, and so that's a bit of forest. There's a road, but it's very, very difficult if you just saw the amount of options for different areas people like fighting on and don't. It's almost impossible to strategically. I think they did it like that to make it complicated and more strategic, but actually it works the opposite, because you can't really strategically plan. Well, I can't, maybe I'm just a bit of a dummy, but it's very hard to strategically plan how you want to attack, because you often won't have all the different terrains, or one of the terrains will be there and one will be there, and say if you move somebody onto whatever this is, if you move them a bit further there'll be a different terrain they won't like. It's very hard to coordinate a proper attack or defence, to be honest. The movement thing plays like anything. You just move within your normal range. You can see they go there, and I have no idea whether they were like that or not, but that's how the movement goes. And the fighting, which I might get to, because it takes a bit of time. They've got to move up. You start a bit of a way apart, but I may not show you that actually. But yeah, it's let them move because it's easier for us. So they've just kind of hung back, which is another thing that happens in this a little bit. So maybe they've got really good terrain there for themselves, I don't know. So yeah, that's the first thing. And the second thing, the actual combat. The actual combat works very similar to any turn-based game you have. You've got this current state of the battle, and no one's fought yet, so that's the state of the battle. Yeah, the other thing, which is the reason I'm not going to make a huge video about this game or an ongoing video, is it looks cheap or mobile. It's like I said in the first video about how the overall map looks. That looks kind of cheap and a bit, well, the cities are the same little icon, there's nothing different, the background's bland. The art style for the actual knights is nice, but everything else is a bit nah. And this is the same. All the maps I played on, and I've not played this tons, but I played it enough, all the maps you play on look a bit like this. They're that bland kind of nothingy background. They all look a bit like some forest. Is a bit of forest, a bit of swamp, maybe a bit of a river, but nothing very interesting, not very detailed. And the actual units, again, they look very mobile-y. See, the art style of the knight there in the left corner, that looks excellent, but how the actual unit looks on the battlefield, it looks kind of mobile-y. So it's a game that I just couldn't gel with. I tried, because I always try, and turn-based games I think are easier to keep trying with, because you don't keep getting knocked out or killed or having to start again. That's a game I tried to like, but it's a little bit fiddly. There's a lot of little bits and pieces to it that aren't excellent. Again, if you really like the game and you want to get into which terrain to fight and how to do this and how to do that, it's worth it. But if you don't like the overall aesthetic of the game, and then you get into this combat which always looks a little bit the same, and you've got this fiddly thing about where you're going to put different people, that one likes roads. So you can see the road there. So if someone only likes being on a road, they've got to go down that line, which is annoying. If someone only likes forest, they've got to stay there, and they can't really come out unless they make it all the way to there, and usually they get caught halfway. And there's no river, and there's no prairie, there's no swamps. I know theoretically you can engineer which troops you take or which units you take by kind of what you think the terrain is going to be, but that again is a lot of fiddling about. And again, like I said, when you come to this screen, and if you've watched any turn-based games that are just normal PlayStation turn-based games or turn-based games on PC, this looks, like I said, it looks mobile and cheap, and it doesn't inspire me to want to do it. Because yeah, you're going to move all your units forward, and they're going to fire all at each other, and they're going to fire back, and you might win. But I couldn't get into it. I couldn't like resonate with the units or the style of the game or the characters, and it's a shame because, like I said, if they'd done a bit more, and it's not, you know, it's not rocket science. If they did a bit more to jazz up the battle areas to make them look a bit more interesting, did a bit more to jazz up the character animations on the battlefield to make them a bit more interesting, and jazzed up the opening map, it would be worth probably investing a bit more for me. But because of how it looks and the fact it's very fiddly, I just thought and so I thought I'd make one more video to show you how the battle map looks and the problems with it. The combat plays out just like any turn-based game. You turn, they fire, you fire. There's buffs and things you can do, and there's healing, but it's all, you know, you've seen it all before. And again, there's nothing amazingly special in that would make you want to play this against other turn-based games. So if you like the aesthetic and you don't mind the fact it looks like this, and you don't mind the fact that the battlefields all look a bit then, you know, maybe you'd like this game. But for a game that's not 20 years old, like I said, I compare it to Dynasty Tactics, which look better than this, it's not for me. So anyway, thanks for watching. Brigadine, Legend of Runersia. Like I said, it's a game that I can't say I would not recommend, but it's a game that I personally couldn't gel with. And like I said, I really do generally like turn-based games, so it's a game that I just couldn't gel with. But yeah, it as you've seen, if it's a game you think you can go with the style and the way it's done, you know, it's a turn-based game and it plays like most turn-based games once you get into it. So yeah, then, you know, go for it. Anyway, I'd say it's worth, if you like this kind of game and you can go with the aesthetic, it's worth picking up in a sale. It's not worth £40, I can tell you that. You can pick up XCOM 2 and the War of the Chosen usually for like a £5 on a PlayStation 2 style, and Phantom Doctrine for a few pounds, and Necromunda for a few pounds. This is like £40, and it's even like £15-16 in a sale. It's not worth £40 for sure. Anyway, thanks for watching. Till next time, take care for now.